You're listening to Seattle's Morning News on KIRO Newsradio. Here's Charlie Harger.
We've been reporting on this for quite a while. Last night, the vote was finally made. Seattle City Council voted 6-3 yesterday to approve the construction of new apartments in SODO. That's the area of Seattle previously zoned primarily for maritime and industrial businesses. To break down how the vote went down, we're joined in studio by Seattle City Council President Sara Nelson. Good morning, Sara. Good to have you here.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's break down the bill. How is this going to work? What are the big takeaways Seattle's Morning News listeners should have?
Well, the big takeaways are that, number one, in this era of skyrocketing pricing for rents and for commercial spaces for small businesses, there will now be an opportunity to build housing, mixed income housing, and also small spaces that are subsidized by the project for small manufacturing businesses. That is a win for both residents and also businesses. And what goes forward is going to be a bunch of planning and designing, et cetera. So, but the work of the City Council is basically finally completing the work that preceded the 2023 rezone of that whole SODO area.
The big issue is just finding places for people to live in Seattle. We are packed, and this is an area really where people haven't lived before.
Absolutely, and we've got an affordability crisis here, and we've got an opportunity to build housing, 50% of which is required by the underlying zoning to be affordable at 60 to 90% area median income. That is huge. And so we're trying to solve two problems at once. In addition, there will be improved public safety because this is an area that has been plagued by some pretty serious crime, and the activation that will come with some residential uses is seen as positive by the neighborhoods surrounding.
Some of the pushback I heard was the accusation we're giving landowner, hedge fund gazillionaire Chris Hansen kind of a sweetheart deal to make up for his losses when he wasn't able to build that NBA arena, which is a large chunk of where this affordable housing will be built. How do you respond to that?
I respond to that by saying, look, the issue is that we have an opportunity, and the property owner has agreed to project labor agreements with the union workforce that will be building this housing and small spaces for light industrial uses. And so that's an old issue. That's an old fight. Right now we're talking about the fight about affordability.
Let's talk transportation a little bit. How do you anticipate, Sara, these people getting around, the new residents there? I mean, we've got train tracks, we've got light rail tracks. We just put Airport Way on a road diet with a protected bike lane that's going in there. What's going to have to happen down there to maybe make this palatable for people who want to live there?
Well, look, this is an area that already has really high traffic volumes, as you likely know. I mean, 5 million people per year go to the stadium for different events, the two stadiums. There will also be a hotel built on the corner of Royal Brom and First, and so that will add more traffic. There could be a cruise terminal at one point at Terminal 46. And so there's a lot of traffic already, and there will likely be more. We're talking about up to 990 units of housing. And so when you really think about it, that is a very small amount of potentially additional housing. And that is precisely the reason why I went forward with this, is because the environmental impact statement in 2023 said that there would not be adverse impacts on port operations.
What about safety, public safety in the area? I know that is such a key issue for you, and if we're adding a lot more people in an area where they haven't lived before, what are some of the plans to address that?
Well, of course, we're going to have to keep on trying to hire more officers at Seattle Police Department, and that is one of my top priorities for years. And so that is aside. But when you have people living in an area, when you have small shops and open storefronts and a lot more activity, it's likely that you will have less crime. And if you go down that stretch right now, you'll see video monitors from property owners that are just watching the area, because there have been murders and stabbings and continued public safety problems. And so that is precisely why the neighborhoods of Pioneer Square and the Chinatown International District were advocating so strongly for this, because they want to see more people on the street.
We're speaking with City Council President Sara Nelson. And Sara, whenever I cover a housing story, it's interesting because I'll get the emails from listeners saying, yeah, we have an affordable housing problem. Yes, we need to place people and have them living in the city. It's a great, vibrant city. People will want to live here. But at the same time, I know you hear this as well. They don't want the housing built. They don't want the big apartment buildings, and they make all these reasonable claims that it's going to disrupt the nature of their neighborhood. I guess what I'm saying is it seems like if we're placing in an area that hasn't had a living neighborhood before, maybe that is one solution, and perhaps those who are pushing back against it need to consider that.
Well, here's the deal. We're talking about putting housing in one of these 6 downtown neighborhoods. The Stadium District is considered a downtown neighborhood according to the mayor's activation plan. So here we have a downtown neighborhood right next to Pioneer Square. That's precisely the place that we should put additional housing. Whatever arguments about housing in different neighborhoods you're talking about, that is a separate story. But this is an area that is ripe for a limited amount of residential use.
Where are they going to shop? I just brought up by the text line. Unless you're a Costco member, there are kind of a food desert generally in that area for a neighborhood to be built up around.
Well, we should ask, where do the people in Pioneer Square shop? We're talking right down the street, and so that is. And I've had folks talk about how wonderful of a store Wajimaya is, and so I think that we should, instead of thinking about these issues, think about, well, it's not that we shouldn't think about where people are going to shop, but I do know that that is an argument that now you're going to add a grocery store, maybe a school, etc. Here's what I will say. We have to be thinking about, where are people going to live? And where are these small businesses going to go? And we're talking about industrial businesses. So this idea that we're pushing out industrial jobs, on the contrary, we are inviting industrial jobs. But we're allowing for those industrial jobs at small businesses, small manufacturing businesses, the opportunity to thrive.
What are you keeping your eye on for next steps in terms of finding affordable places for people to live?
I would say we're going to all take a break here. This has been, this was a big. This took a lot of work on all sides to get done, and want to make sure that we move forward with our next issue, which is the comprehensive plan, and that's a whole different story.
You'll come back and join us for that, right?
Indeed.
Okay, last question. We're out of time, but you owned a brewery for many, many years, and spring is around the corner. Sully's very excited about it, too. Spring is around the corner. It's supposed to warm up next week. Cherry blossoms will be out. It might be 70 and sunny. What are some selections? What styles? Hefeweizen, lager? What kind of gal are you?
We have a great line of non-alcoholic IPAs, or wits and stouts. It's all, everybody has their own options.
What's your favorite?
Well, I really love our NA IPA.
It's Council President Sara Nelson. Thank you for being here today. These are tough issues. Whenever you're talking about growth, it is something that people get worked up about, and it's important to have these discussions. So you come by anytime.
Thank you very much for having me.